People, did you know that Switzerland was one of the poorest and most cursed countries on the planet? When people look at Switzerland today, they call it the paradise on earth. They say that God blessed Switzerland with the most beautiful things on earth. Because this is what Switzerland looks like. But you know what these people forget? They forget that Switzerland was one of the poorest countries in the world with a guaranteed failure. If you look at any country that got rich, you will see that most of them either had oil, gold, coal, or some natural resource that turned them into a trading hub. Dubai has oil, Australia has iron ore and gold, and Russia and America practically have everything possible on this planet, from oil to gas to gold.
Take the oil. Keep the oil. Drill, baby, drill.
But if you look at Switzerland, they practically had nothing. No coal, no oil, no gold, no iron, and not a single ounce of natural wealth. On top of that, they are a landlocked country just like Afghanistan. They have no access to sea or trade routes just like Afghanistan. And just like Afghanistan, 75% of their land is mountain, so it's hard to even farm or connect places together. They have such freezing conditions that it's hard to feed their own people with their own crops. And they were so poor that Swiss children practically walked to Germany just to work as laborers. And in 1816, the Swiss people were starving so bad that they had to eat grass, moss and barks just to survive. But then, over the next 200 years, Switzerland did something so crazy that today, the same country is one of the richest major countries on the face of earth. On top of that, they refine 70% of the entire world's gold. They build luxury watches that cost more than a car, and their per capita GDP is $100,000 more than the Germans, Americans, and Russians. So the question is, how the hell did a poor, cursed country with no resources become the richest country on earth? What did these poor people do on a pile of frozen rock that no other country could do? And when India is sitting on 100x resources, what can we do to become as rich as Switzerland? People, the world is changing very fast. Elections, global conflicts, economic uncertainty, and job losses are creating an information war. And in every war, the people with the best tools always win. In AI, many are calling Claude the Brahmastra. Professionals are doing work that once required entire teams. Freelancers are delivering projects in days instead of weeks. Founders are cutting costs while increasing speed and output. This isn't just another AI tool. It is a skill that can give you a real advantage over the next decade. Google and Amazon have invested billions into this technology, and now it's important that you understand how to use it. That is why I recommend the complete Claude live training program, and if you understand the superpowers and abilities that Claude can unlock for you, it'll be game-changing for you and you will never be left behind. This workshop is happening on Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's a 16-hour live hands-on training program. This workshop is super relevant for working professionals, freelancers, founders, or anyone who's serious about getting ahead of the curve. In this workshop, you will learn how to do hours of research in minutes using Claude, how to build tools and dashboards without writing a single line of code, how to create presentations and reports automatically, and how to turn Claude into your permanent intelligent assistant. And for a limited time, Outskill is giving this training for completely free. So if you want to unlock the superpowers of Claude in your life, check out the link in the description and register for this workshop today. This is a story that dates back to 1850s when a man named Alfred Escher looked at a trend across Europe and America, and he saw a terrifying reality. He saw that the fastest growing nations of the world were growing fast due to a game-changing invention called the railways. Why? Because railways dropped the cost of transportation by 95%, and a farmer selling produce in the range of 10 kilometers could now sell his products 1,000 kilometers away. In fact, in America, a farmer in Pittsburgh started bottling horseradish and ketchup, and he used railways to sell his ketchup all across the country. That company today is valued at $40 billion and is called Kraft Heinz. Similarly, a pharmacist invented a syrup in the remote regions of Atlanta, and because of railways, we know this company today as Coca-Cola. And every country from Britain, France to Germany, they were all building empires out of railways. Whereas in Switzerland, people were still pushing carts. So in 1852, as a thoughtful politician and businessman, he passed a railway act to build railways for Switzerland. But the problem was they had no coal, no iron, and no flat land. In fact, 60% of the country was mountainous. It was like India trying to connect the Himalayas with no money at all. So the question is, how did he pull off the impossible? Well, as it turns out, this incredible man built his own bank, which we all know today as Credit Suisse. But the question is, how do you raise a fortune in a country that has no money? Well, Escher raised this money from the people of Switzerland with a great scheme. Instead of raising money from foreign banks, he rolled out 3 million shares of the bank, and this offer was so lucrative that the shares got oversubscribed by 73 times. That is how Escher got the money. But you see, money can't design a bridge, money can't drill a tunnel, and money cannot build railways. At the same time, Switzerland had 0 engineering colleges. So you know what? Alfred ruled out another scheme. In 1848, revolutions erupted all across Europe. So in France, the German states, Austria, Italy, and Hungary, in all these states, people rose up demanding constitutions, free speech, and an end to monarchy. But this is when Switzerland did the opposite. It wrote a constitution guaranteeing free speech, guaranteeing free press, and guaranteeing free assembly. And suddenly, Switzerland became the safest country in Europe. So you know what? Something absolutely unbelievable happened. The most talented people across Europe started coming to Switzerland because their own country wasn't safe. So Richard Wagner shows up in Zurich with an arrest warrant, and he ends up writing operas that reshape Western music. Lenin sat in a Zurich library plotting a revolution. And Zurich's university was so progressive that they produced the first female doctor in Europe. And more importantly, some of the best professors in the world showed up in Switzerland with an arrest warrant. And they all together gave rise to some of the best universities in the world in Switzerland. In fact, the school that produced Albert Einstein Federal Polytechnic in Zurich was built with these talented people shaping it. So slowly, even the talent problem got solved. So Switzerland did not pay for talent, it just rescued them during a crisis. That is how Escher got both money and talent. And using all these resources, he did 2 amazing things which transformed Switzerland completely. Firstly, he connected every nook and corner of Switzerland with railways. And look how crazy their infrastructure is today, guys. Switzerland built the densest railway network on earth by threading rails through mountains, valleys, and tiny alpine villages.
Switzerland has the densest railway network in the world, with over 5,000 kilometers of tracks and more than 20,000 trains running daily, connecting even one of the most remote parts of the country.
And do you realize what that meant in the 1800s? Here in India, while Arunachal Pradesh and Meghalaya did not have a railway until 15 years ago, these guys did it 150 years ago. And then Switzerland did something even crazier. If you look at the map, to the north of Switzerland was Germany, which was the industrial monster of Europe. And to the south was Italy, which was back then the gateway to the Mediterranean to ships to everywhere. But jammed right between them is a wall of solid rock 3 kilometers high called the Alps. So for 600 years, Alps was a curse, and the only way across was the Gotthard Pass, where you had to drag goods all the way to the top with mules, ice, and prayer. This would take 2 to 3 days, and this pass was only open for 5 months during summer. So Alfred Escher, the crazy man, decided to drive a railway straight through the heart of the Alps. And he also somehow convinced these 2 giant neighbors to help pay for the tunnel that would make Switzerland indispensable. And finally, after 10 years of drilling, the journey from Zurich to Milan collapsed from 3 days to just 8 hours. And the cost of transportation went down by more than 80%. So suddenly, the volume of goods and passengers passing through the tunnel shot up and turned Switzerland into one of the most important transit countries in Europe. Today, this route links Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Luxembourg, France, Switzerland, Italy, and beyond. That is how Switzerland turned its weakness of being landlocked into a strength by becoming a trading hub for Europe. And all of this connects an area which contributes 16% of EU's GDP. And this is where the second and perhaps the most important phase of Switzerland starts, where they use the cleverest strategies, perhaps zero-cost strategies, to become one of the richest countries in the world. You know what they did? They sold money they didn't have, they sold medicine they never invented, and they sold chocolates that they could never grow. Let me show you how. Let's start with money. When I was in Dubai, I met an agent who helps people shift their money to Dubai. And he told me something fascinating. He said the Dubai real estate prices are directly proportional to the fear in the world. So if Russia-Ukraine war happens, people from Russia and Ukraine park their money in Dubai real estate. The same thing happens every time there's a crisis in Syria, Lebanon, or even Europe. Every time there is fear or a crisis in the world, the Dubai real estate market booms because it is the safest place on earth. And just like people want safety today, back then people wanted safety and, more importantly, privacy to hide their wealth where no government, no taxman, no enemy can ever find it. So in 1934, right before World War II, Switzerland passed a law where it became a criminal offense for a banker to reveal who owned a Swiss account. And guess what? When World War II happened, this policy became the most valuable product that Swiss could sell on this planet.
In the early 1940s, a key player emerges, the Union Bank of Switzerland.
And at the time, it had grown from a local bank into one of the most important banks in Switzerland.
By 1941, the Swiss franc was the only freely convertible currency left, the only money that the entire world still trusted. At the same time, the German marks had become practically worthless. So when Hitler wanted to buy a weapon, nobody would take his marks. So he needed Swiss francs. And to get francs, he needed Switzerland. So the Nazi party sold tons of gold to Switzerland in exchange for Swiss franc. That is how the Swiss bank took in roughly 1.2 billion francs of Nazi gold, or $2.5 billion in today's money. So Switzerland was Hitler's banker during World War II. But you know what? After this, Switzerland did something even more cunning. Today, Switzerland is the pharma hub of the world. But the question is, how does Switzerland with no chemical wealth and no raw materials become a pharmaceutical hub on this planet? Well, the answer to it is a loophole. In the 1800s, France had patented a lucrative dye called fuchsine. But French patent law was so strict that chemists couldn't freely make it. And this is where Switzerland found another opportunity. So you know what they did? Switzerland practically allowed all intellectual property to be copied on their soil for 100 long years. So for 100 years, you could copy any formula on earth, bring it to Switzerland, make a lot of money and never get sued. And cherry on the cake, you could deposit that money in Swiss banks. So every brilliant chemist came running to Switzerland and they started with a dye. And this dye quietly turned into drugs. And today, Switzerland exports chemical to the entire world and makes $169 billion every year. And then came chocolates. As usual, the irony with Switzerland is cocoa does not grow in Switzerland at all. But even then, Swiss chocolate is considered to be the gold standard of chocolates. Why? Two inventions. In 1875, Daniel Peter cracked a problem that had defeated everyone. He understood how to mix condensed milk with cocoa to make something called chocolates. And he was the founding member of a small company that we all know today as Nestle. And then another guy named Rudolf Lindt invented something called Cunning, which is a process of endlessly rolling chocolate until the gritty, bitter mess turned into silky, melt-in-your-mouth magic. And that started the iconic Lindt, which today sells chocolates worth $6 billion. That is how Switzerland also became famous for chocolate. Similarly, while Swiss had the curse of having no resources, they used worthless things like iron and brass and turned it into something called a watch and turned that into $1 billion export product. Why? Because Swiss watches were the iPhones of the 1900s. In a commoditized market, they made a product so beautiful and so perfect that the entire world fell in love with Swiss watches. That is how, by connecting the country with world-class infrastructure, by raising money for the right reasons, by using policy as an instrument of growth, and by attracting the best talent from across the world, Switzerland became one of the richest countries on earth. And there are 3 lessons that India needs to learn from Switzerland. Number 1, Switzerland had no oil, no gold, but it is so well connected that $1 billion trade could happen even across the mountains. But here in India, we are still dreaming about clean trains and freight corridors, which are still at beginner stages. Number 2, while Switzerland became a safe haven for great talent, India is losing its talent to the West due to lack of opportunities and lifestyle. And lastly, while the Swiss turned every curse into a blessing with policies passed in months, India keeps on debating about the same policy for decades. Eventually, the governments change, the files get buried, and the moment passes. But here's the thing, Switzerland in 1850 was us. Poor, disconnected, bleeding talent and stuck. But they didn't escape because they were lucky. They escaped because one generation decided to play a 200-year game and they refused to flinch at any moment between that. The only question is our generation bold enough to push our politicians, and is our political system strong enough to make this revolution happen? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube app happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.